redefine success in amateur baseball and softball. My name is Wright. I work at GameChanger. I've been there about 4 years. I'm neither a data scientist nor a hacker. I'm in fact a content marketer. But this talk is sort of interesting in the sense that I was allowed to actually get this data analyzed. I'm basically just a big baseball stats nerd who had access to 7 million games of data and wanted to see what we could find out about it. So GameChanger is a free scorekeeping and stat platform for amateur baseball, softball, and basketball teams. We make an app that allows coaches to sort of input plays as they're at the field, and then we automatically calculate 150 stats, push stats to the web. That product is entirely free for coaches, and then we provide live updates, sort of like GameCast style, to parents, fans, grandparents, people that can't make the game, booster clubs, etc. And we charge them sort of a small monthly fee. Our mission is very much around just helping amateur communities be more connected and efficient. Coaches at the amateur level are generally volunteers who spend a lot of time working to make amateur athletes' lives better and try to improve player development. So when they get home after a game, the last thing they want to do is 2 hours of nap to total batting averages and see the stats. So the fact that we can do this for free and in 20 seconds, we think is pretty great for them. Before I go any further, how many people here are baseball fans? all right. How many people generally understand the way baseball works? Okay. If you have any questions, if I'm going too fast, if a stat I'm mentioning doesn't make sense or something's unclear, just raise your hand, let me know. I'm happy to explain it. I'm going to try to make this as clear as possible, but some of the stuff may be more foreign if you don't watch a lot of baseball. So our goal was to analyze the 7 million games that have been scored on our platform to try to find insights that can improve the way coaches interact with players, specifically around player development, player performance, and player health. 7 million games is an unbelievable amount of baseball data. We think it's 7 to 10 times the history of recorded professional sports, not just baseball, but all professional sports. So there was definitely some issues and also some benefits there. So the data set we had was player season totals across 150 different stats. Some of them are really basic, hits, pitches thrown. Some of them are more complicated, like on base plus slugging, the plus slugging percentage, fielding and pitching, some other things I'll talk about in a second. This is just for baseball and softball. We have basketball as well, but we haven't that data yet. Ages 8 to 18. So there's definitely a wide variety of skill sets and even teams and players across 2 sports. It's over 60 million records and around 30 gigabytes of data. So as I mentioned, there are some challenges. So our platform, all values are inputted by users. So there's definitely some bias. If there's a coach scoring the game, then we think that there's a good chance that information is correct. If there's a parent in the stands, coach just scoring 10 games for their season, we tend to see that their kid's batting average might be a little higher than what we otherwise. So that definitely causes. We need to try to do it. We need to try to filter that as much as possible. As I mentioned, vastly different skill levels. So for instance, this kid on the left is not good at baseball. Not just because he's young, but because no one should be holding a bat trying to hit like that. But his data counts as much as Carlos Correa, who was the MLB Rookie of the Year this year. So just as an example of the range of talent we're dealing with, makes it difficult to compare. There are uneven rules, so Little League teams play 6 innings. They're going to play as few as 4 if they get mercy ruled, whereas high school teams play 7 innings. And then across baseball and softball, there are some like slightly different rules. Obviously, baseball throws overhand and softball throws underhand. But generally, we try to look at stats where we thought the interactions between the players and what the stats were representing were pretty similar. And then there are junk teams. So like this person decided to score the 2012 Cincinnati Reds season, but we don't really want to be looking at that. The fascinating thing about this actually is not only did they score the Cincinnati Reds, the 2012 Cincinnati Reds season, they scored it entirely accurately until the playoffs, when the Cincinnati Reds lost, but this person continued to score like they won, and eventually the Reds won the World Series in 2012, according to this person's fantasy. So we have to try to eliminate those things as well. So this is Eric. Eric was the one that allowed me to actually analyze this data, and this is Travis, who's the other person. They're both engineers at GameChanger. They did some magic that I don't really understand. Eric can definitely answer questions around this if you have it. But the stats were trapped in Mongo. Travis, I believe, wrote some Python to dump all the player stats to S3 in gzip JSON. Travis wrote some more Python to load that JSON into Redshift. I believe you took over at this point. So Eric is the one that manages our data pipeline. So we use Looker to import and visualize our data in Redshift. So he set up Looker to access these new stats. Then he taught me a little bit of SQL, which I had never learned before, and I did a little bit of research on the internet, and I know how to use Excel. So once we had all this data, we had 7 million games, way more player stats, and we had to sort of like make some decisions around what we were actually going to look at. So we did this in a couple of ways. One, we made some educated guesses. So I spent a lot of time looking at Major League Baseball stats. So I had some idea of what I thought were going to be some of the more interesting interactions. And then just sort of general understanding of the game of baseball. Then we figured out we couldn't look at counting stats because players play varying amounts of games. So this is impossible to find anything or analyze. This is just basically a lot of the numbers we pulled just look like big blue boxes. So we need to turn everything into a percentage. And then the last thing is sort of around, there's sort of a GameChanger coaching philosophy, which is around the value of process-based stats as opposed to results-based stats. So results-based stats are things like batting average or wins or earned run average, which measure the outcome of a player's performance. The problem with results-based stats is that they don't do a good job of actually measuring the individual player. Something like batting average is dependent not just on the hitter, but also on the umpire, the pitcher they're facing, the defense they're facing, like the weather, and then some amount of luck. There are pop-ups that get turned into outs 99 times out of 100 that land, and that looks good in terms of a results-based stat. But that's not what we believe coaches should be focused on when they're looking to improve player development. What we want to focus on is process-based stats. These are stats that indicate the process that the player took to actually hit the ball was the right one. So the stats that we look at are first pitch strike percentage and hard hit balls. There are a couple benefits to this. One is that they're actionable. It's really hard to tell a player to improve their batting average. It's easier to tell a player or coach a player to just focus on making hard contact. The game of baseball is really complex. It's hard to tell a player to improve their earned run average. It's easy to tell a player, just focus on throwing the first pitch for a strike. Don't worry about the rest of the at-bat. Don't worry about the runner on second. Just focus on the batter and throw the first strike, and that'll put you in a better position to succeed. The additional benefits of this is it allows us to measure player contributions in greater ways than just their impact on like runs scored or batting average or something like that. This allows coaches to be more inclusive in terms of what they're measuring. Any player can say, oh, like I improved my hard hit ball percentage 5% this season. Even if they're the worst player on the team, their contribution to the whole winning percentage is going to be great. But it allows the coach to say, you're making meaningful improvement, and if you keep making improvement in this way, eventually the results are going to follow. So that's sort of what we were looking at. That's sort of what we learned that we're looking at. So some quick definitions. So first pitch strike percentage is the percentage of times the first pitch in the at-bat is a strike. Walks are 4 balls, means that the batter gets to go to first automatically. Leadoff walks means that the first batter in the inning gets walked. So if there's a 7-inning game, there's only 7 opportunities for a pitcher to allow a leadoff walk. On-base percentage is the percentage of time a batter reaches base, either through a hit or a walk. A hard hit ball is not something that really exists, but we define it as a line drive or a hard ground ball. Definitely some bias here in terms of a coach identifying this was a hard ground ball versus a soft ground ball. But given just the volume of data, we think it all sort of comes out of the wash. Batting average is the percentage of time the batter hits the ball to get on base. So this eliminates walks from the equation. And then slugging percentage is a power metric. So it's the total number of bases a player gets divided by their at-bats. So if a player has 3 at-bats, a single is worth 1 base, a double is worth 2 base. If they have a single, a double, and an out, their slugging percentage is 1 or 1,000. So we found the average pitcher throws the first pitch strike 50% of the time. This is sort of the craziest thing I think we found. So if a batter throws a first pitch ball, if a pitcher throws a first pitch ball, they can expect that batter to reach base 50% of the time. If they throw a first pitch strike, that goes down to 32% of the time. So basically, ball 1 allows hitters to reach base like Ted Williams, who's one of the top 3 hitters in the history of baseball. Strike 1 turns batters into Benji Molina, who is an incredibly average light-hitting catcher. Great career, great guy, but not a completely great hitter. This is the difference between like a $400 million contract and like a $10 million contract at the MLB level, just based on the first pitch in the at-bat. And most of this actually comes from walks. So batters walk 28% of the time after ball 1, but only 4% of the time after strike 1. The other thing first pitch strikes do is they specifically help limit leadoff walks. So you can see the trend line. So around 58%, if you can increase your first pitch strike percentage to 65%, you're going to see a 3% decrease in leadoff walks over the course of the season. Within a game, this is not that meaningful. Over the course of 100 to 200 innings, over the course of 3 years, you're actually going to see way fewer runs allowed. And that's because leadoff walks score 46% of the time, which is a really high number. Eliminating walks in general is important. Eliminating leadoff walks is really important in terms of actual run prevention. And the last thing first pitch strike percentage, increasing your first pitch strike percentage can do is decrease the number of pitches you throw per inning. So pitcher health is a super complicated topic. I don't want to claim that like just decreasing the number of pitches thrown in an inning is going to magically allow youth players to not have Tommy John surgery or blow out their arm. But there's definitely a ton of research that not only is total pitches important in terms of player health, but the number of pitches you throw in an inning is perhaps even more important. So a pitcher that throws, if 2 pitchers both throw 100 pitches, if one pitcher has pretty evenly distributed pitches per inning across the board, and another has innings where they throw 5 pitches and then 40 pitches, that pitcher is more likely to get hurt because of because overuse over a very short period of time generally leads to more injuries. This is also important because at the Little League level, there are actual pitch count maximums. So for coaches, they can say, if I can make my best pitchers more efficient, that means they can throw more hitters and throw more innings over the course of the season. So this is the hard hit ball metric. So average player has a hard hit ball on 17% of their plate appearances. Hard hit ball correlates very well with batting average. So if you can increase your hard hit ball percentage from 15% to 20%, you can see that 13-point increase in your batting average. It's even more stark for slugging percentage. 470 versus 389 is the difference between an all-star and an average player. And that 10% increase is large, but it's not impossible or unattainable. And more generally, we want coaches to focus on improving their hard hit ball percentage. And the message is that if you work on this, if you make incremental improvements, you're going to see your players hit for a better average and also hit for more power. That's it, actually. We're hiring. You can go to gc.com/careers or email me or Eric. We're both happy to take any questions that people have. Yeah.
On baseball, basketball, do you have anything like in the future that you're gonna start analyzing, like soccer or something?
Yeah, so we're definitely in the process of releasing new sports. Soccer isn't quite on the horizon yet. Soccer is a really hard sport to score on an iOS app, and then the other part of our business is it's not the most interesting to follow from the fan side. So baseball and basketball, there's a shot or there's a pitch every like 5 seconds. For more like 10 or 15. For soccer, there's a goal once every 90 minutes. So the viewing experience isn't quite as interesting for people. So our next sport is definitely going to be lacrosse, but yeah. So I mean, the plan is to have every sport eventually. It's just a matter of when we get there. Basketball is definitely the next sport we're going to like sort of dig into that. Yeah.
What's your opinion on the viability of scoring, say, football based on the low sample size of just data?
The viability of scoring, or
well, yeah. If you were to take the same scoring approach that you applied to baseball, is it your opinion you'd be able to derive insights from that, given the low sample set of games and factors like that? So, if we combine everything, I think we'd be able to analyze. I think within the season it'd be really tough, right? Like the variation performance year in the NFL over 16 games is really high. There aren't that many things that stay consistent, and there are just huge swings in terms of value or in terms of passing yards or team defense. But we think that if we had enough data, we'll start to see some sort of general trends. But yeah, within the season, it's definitely going to be hard to sort of predict future performance based on 3 games at the beginning of the season. That's why, the more events there are in a game, like baseball or basketball, it's much easier to sort of get enough of a sample size to sort of see what the trends are. Other questions? Cool. Thank you so much. We in the back, they say GameChanger on them. Some people like that. It's sort of my nightmare because everyone likes to make puns out of GameChanger. GameChanger is changing the game. We hear that like 3 times a day. But thank you so much for attending. If you have questions, if you have technical questions, come talk to Eric. If you just want to talk about baseball, come talk to me. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend.